Hi kids, this is your Teacher Nhery. And guess what? It is our storytelling time. Are you excited?
Yeah!
Because I am very excited. So if you are excited, please sit back, relax, and enjoy our story. Let's begin. The title of our story for today is The Elves and the Shoemaker. A long time ago, in a small wooden cottage, there lived a kindly old man and his loving wife. He was a shoemaker. They both worked very hard all day long, but sadly, they never had more than a few pence at the end of each week. One evening, after looking at the material he had left in his shoebox, the shoemaker called to his wife,
"Look, I only have one piece of leather left to work with, and we have no money to buy any more."
He exclaimed.
"What are we to do?"
His poor wife listened to these words with a heavy heart.
"I have no idea what we will do," she replied.
"But there is nothing we can do about it now. Let's go to bed and get some rest. We will try to think of something in the morning." So the shoemaker closed up his toolbox and went to bed. The next day, he got up and went to start work on his last pair of shoes. But when he got to his workbench, the last piece of leather was gone. In its place was a sparkling new pair of shoes. "What's this?" he exclaimed, thinking that he was dreaming. He couldn't believe his eyes. He called to his wife excitedly, "Come quick, come quick!" Then he showed her the shoes which were sitting on the bench. "What a perfectly beautiful pair of shoes!" she cried. "But how on earth did they get here?" Neither of them knew the answer to that question. Later that day, a young man came to see the shoemaker to order a new pair of shoes. But when he saw the pair sitting on the shelf, he smiled and said, "Why? Those are just what I am looking for." He tried them on, and they fitted perfectly. "Such soft leather! Such tiny stitching! These are the best shoes I have ever worn," said the young man. He handed over a bag of gold coins to the amazed shoemaker and went on his way. The shoemaker and his wife were delighted with their coins.
"My dear wife," he said, "now we have enough money to buy more leather and food as well."
He went into town and bought everything he needed to make 2 new pairs of shoes. When he came home, he started cutting everything out, ready to begin work in the morning. Tired but very happy, the old man then went to bed. In bed, he and his wife began to talk about the funny things that had happened that day.
"Who do you think made those shoes?"
he wondered.
"And why did they leave them here?"
he continued. "It's all very strange," replied his wife.
But let's go to sleep now, and maybe it will all become clear in the morning.
The next day, the shoemaker went to his bench to start work.
What?
He shouted in amazement. Gone were the pieces of leather he had cut out. In their place were two wonderful pairs of shiny shoes.
He ran into the kitchen to find his wife. "Look, look!" he cried, holding the shoes up for her to see. "It has happened again!"
"Amazing!"
said the old woman, smiling in wonder at this strange event.
"And they are even more beautiful than the last pair," she laughed. Later, as he was placing the shoes on the shelf, a very rich lady walked into his shop. The shoemaker couldn't believe his luck. "Ah, those are just the pair of shoes I am looking for," she stated grandly. "Do let me try them on." The shoemaker did not hesitate. When the lady saw how well they fitted, she smiled and handed him a big bag of gold coins before going on her way. That evening, the shoemaker and his wife had plenty of food to eat and enough money to buy yet more leather. "But who is helping us out in this way?" they asked again, for they were still very puzzled by the strange events. After dinner, the shoemaker returned to work, cutting out leather for more shoes. The next morning, he got up to find that, once again, the leather had been turned into beautiful pairs of shoes. They sat gleaming on his workbench while the elderly couple looked on in wonder. This continued for many days to come. Before long, the shoemaker and his wife became known throughout the land. They produced the most perfect pairs of shoes. Said the gentleman, "You will not find better stitching anywhere in this land," said the ladies. The shoemaker and his wife became very busy and sold many pairs of the beautiful shoes. They were now no longer poor and had no need to worry about money. "We have been very lucky, my dear," said the shoemaker one evening. "But I think it is time we try to find out who has been helping us with these shoes," he continued. That evening, instead of going to bed, the shoemaker and his wife hid behind the table. They wanted to see what would happen to the cut leather he had left on his workbench. Suddenly, out of nowhere, appeared two little elves. They climbed up to the leather and immediately started work, threading and stitching busily. "Look at them," whispered the shoemaker to his wife. "They are working so fast and so hard." Neither of them could believe their eyes. As they went to bed, leaving the elves to their work, the wife turned to her husband and said, "Did you notice that those two little elves were working so hard for us, but wearing such rags themselves? Now is the time for us to do something for them." And they did. That morning, instead of selling more shoes,
The shoemaker and his wife started sewing and stitching for the elves. Before long, they finished their work. The shoemaker had made 2 gleaming pairs of tiny shoes, and his wife had sewn 2 charming sets of clothes for each elf. They smiled at each other, pleased with themselves. Then they laid the shoes and clothes out on the shoemaker's workbench. That evening, they once again hid behind the table, waiting for the elves to appear. Just on the stroke of midnight, the little elves clambered up onto the workbench. When they saw the clothes and shoes laid out for them, they gasped in delight.
For us!
They whispered, laughing at the joke the shoemaker had played on them. They quickly took off their old rags and pulled the new outfits on. They fitted perfectly. The little elves jumped and danced around in glee, while the shoemaker and his wife looked on smiling. The elves never returned after that night, for there was no need. The shoemaker was now a rich man with enough work to keep him busy. So, the well-dressed elves moved on to help someone else, and the shoemaker and his wife lived happily ever after. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Share this video with your friends. Don't forget to leave your comments down below. Once again, this is Teacher Nhery, and see you on my next video. Bye-bye!